Well, I am back for day two of 365 days of being. And I am just going to start this off with I just got done with a workout. I am completely unkempt, unmade up, completely ready to be present with you here in this moment. And I wanted to kind of set the story, set the base for how I even got to this point of entering the year of being, of sharing it with you, of asking you to join me on this journey. I was just at the gym, and as I was at the gym, I was looking around. I'm completely like energized, that feeling after a workout where you feel like every cell in your body's moving and you're full of this like palpable cellular energy. And I looked around and I thought to myself, there's some familiar faces here. This is the gym I go to when I'm traveling to my family's house. I'm not in my same location as I normally am. And there's some people that looked brand new, wandering around, trying to figure out what they were doing. There's probably some people there that, this is their beginning of their resolutions, which I actually looked it up. The second Friday of January is actually when the majority of people give up on their New Year's resolutions. So next Friday, the 9th, will be, I think they're calling Quitter's Day, is what they call it. But I looked around and I thought to myself, there's a handful of people in here that will get to the end of this year and have done everything that they wanted to do with their workouts. They will have committed to it. They will have defined it. They will have gone for it. The majority of people will not. And this is not the conversation about just why we get to the end and we do what we want to do. But this actually is taking you back to last year at the beginning. It's actually taking you back all the way to the middle of 2024, which set up my year for 2025. And hold on one second, Sebastian, I'm on a video. And we're on live, so my son just came up. But it set up my entire year for 2025. And that was, I had a friend say to me, the thing that defined my idea of self trust. And that was, sorry, my son has entered the room and we are live, and we will have to hold on one second, Sebastian. But he said to me, when he was making a decision, that if he trusts himself, I can't stop, Sebastian. You have to leave. If he trusts himself, then he knows that no matter what, Sebastian, I can't stop the video, honey.
I'm not asking you to.
Okay. This is the best part about going live, is that we get to just make it up as we go along. So, gathering myself here, he said to me that if he trusts himself in this decision, if he trusts himself, he knows that no matter what, he cannot be wrong. Even if the decision he made does not work out, no matter what, he cannot be wrong because he's doing it based on self trust. And that stayed with me. That stayed with me, and that stayed with me, and that stayed with me. And as I sat with that at the beginning of 2025, I sat with one of my dear friends and we came up with our ideas and our intentions for the year. I knew that self trust was the thing that I was going to need to engage with, because I still to this day cannot get what he said out of my mind. Because if I trust myself, I cannot be wrong. Even if it doesn't work out, it cannot be wrong. And so as I entered that, I decided to engage with the idea of what self trust was. And as I sat with it, and as the universe brought me different lessons, and as I learned more about myself, and as I learned how to define self trust, I recognized there are many levels to self trust. And that's what I want to talk to you about today, in those different levels of self trust. And that leads into the conversation, even about the gym, even about what we're deciding to do. And the first level, I think, is the easiest one for us to all understand, which is the level of saying what you're going to do and doing what you're going to say. But that piece, even in itself, right? I trust myself to do these things. I trust myself to show up for this. I trust myself to engage in this way. But even within that, right, there's the level of identity in doing the things you're saying you're going to do and do what you're going to say. And then there's the level of routine, right? So we have the level I am a kind person, the identity. I'm a kind person. I'm a good friend, right? We make associated choices with these identities. If I'm a kind person and I'm a good friend, I know that I'm going to show up to my friend's baby shower and I'm going to help throw it and I'm going to engage in that way because I'm a kind person and I'm a good friend and I do these things. So there's these easy things that are associated with our identity. Now, there's the pieces of that are these same routines, right? We know we brush our teeth every day, and 99% of the time we remember, and occasionally we fall asleep and we don't. But 99% of the time we brush our teeth, and we know that we are the type of person who showers daily, or whatever your shower routine is. Right, I'm the person that lets my dogs out in the morning and I make my breakfast in the morning and I do these things and these are part of the routine. Right? These are all things that we trust ourselves to do. I say that I'm going to do it and I do what I say. The piece where we start to split, where the identity and the actions split, is the piece where it doesn't quite line up with our identity. The example of the gym, there are some people that I see all the time, every time. Matter of fact, sometimes I think they're what are the NPCs? I swear it's like the same person every time I go to the gym, no matter what time I go to the gym. They're always there. I mean, who knows why they're always there, but it's a thing where you know that there's people that is actually part of their routine. It has become so enmeshed with them that it's part of their identity. And then there's parts of us that are less routine, but consistent things that we do, right? That are somewhat part of our identity, but more part of a conscious routine. And then there's parts of us that are converging from our current identity. Maybe you're a person who hadn't been taking care of yourself and now you want to take care of yourself. And so you're stretching that ability, that capacity, that understanding of what your identity is and how to integrate that with the things that you're doing. There's where your self-trust starts to get tested. There's where, am I saying I'm going to do it? Am I saying I'm going to go to the gym? I'm saying I'm going to start the business. I'm saying I'm going to be live today at some point, even though I'm traveling and I was at a museum with 4 kids and they were all around the house and my dog threw up downstairs and all of these things. Am I going to say it and am I going to do it? Am I going to still show up live despite all the circumstances, despite the fact that there's a weird background behind me? This is where the new identity and the routine start to come into play and we start to test our trust in ourselves. Are we the person that does the thing we say we're going to do? And this is where, if we start to build, compound trust in ourselves, that continues to build and it continues to build and it continues to build. You have to think of self-trust as this is so much less about, yes, we can have conversations about how self-trust can be reflected in how we treat people and how other people see us and how things show up for us. Should have gotten a little more water before I started this. But the reality is that this conversation, right, the year of being, the self-trust conversation, I want to really focus on what the internal pieces are doing for us, what the internal pieces are saying to us, how they're showing up, right? Self-trust is, right, are we then consciously choosing to do it, are we not negotiating ourselves down from that? If we start to negotiate ourselves down from that, that's the piece where it becomes challenging. The piece where it becomes challenging is having to sit with and face with the conscious decision. I said I was going to do this thing. I said I was going to get up today and I was going to go to the gym and I was going to start becoming the person that I want to be. I want to face that part of my identity, but then you don't. And when you don't, there's the piece where you start to fracture your own internal self-trust. You start to think, oh, you start to shame yourself. You start to feel the guilt around it. You start to think like, oh, how could I do that to myself? But the other piece of that is if we were to think of our self-trust with ourself as a relationship, right? The self-trust as a relationship. And what that would look like is if I told my best friend that I was going to show up for her and then I didn't, right? That was, am I saying and doing what I'm going to say, what I'm going to do? If I show up for her, I am. If I don't, I'm not. But then what if I start lying to my best friend? What if I start lying to her about things? How would that make her feel? And that's what we do to ourselves. We lie to ourselves. We lie to ourselves in two ways. We lie to ourselves about the person that we have been and currently are interacting as, and we lie to ourselves about the things we're going to do and how we're going to show up. But here's the other piece that I think is the piece that really anchors in the deeper next level, right? This intuitive level. And this is the piece that I'm really wanting to kind of go in on. This is the next level conversation that I'm inviting you to. And that is, how do we take that, not just from the action and saying and conscious level, but how do we integrate in the intuitive, deeper level in our soul? How do we trust ourselves to listen to when we hear that inner voice and it says yes? It says no. It says not right now. It says this isn't right for you. And sometimes the most challenging one is go that way, do that thing, interact in that way, show up in that way, move this place, quit that job. I know you don't have a backup plan, but just quit it because I know that there's something else coming. You have to end that relationship. You have to travel to that country. You have to send that email. That piece in us. It's not anybody else. It's nothing outside of ourselves. It's not anything anybody said. It is that piece within us that's saying, go there. Listen here. Right? That's the crux of this entire thing. The year of being is about, can we listen? Right? Can we follow that truth? Can we trust ourselves? Can we find a way to practice that muscle of trust over and over and over and over again? Because once you get to that place of that deep, deep, deep trust, then you know that the other pieces, right? That's the here. Then of course, right? Then the matter of fact, because then I become that person because I trust myself. So of course I'm going to do that thing. Of course I'm going to send that email. Of course I'm going to move when everybody thinks it's a stupid idea and nobody agrees with what I'm doing, but you know so deep within yourself that you trust yourself and what your inner voice is saying. That's the being. That's the actions from the being. That's not just the, here's a list of things that I want to do. And I've spent so much time thinking about the idea of New Year's resolutions, right? I've got it from all sorts of angles. How do we set goals? How do we understand it? How do we set them better? How do we come up with better intentions? How do we come up with better lists? How do we do all of that? And all of that is virtually meaningless if we don't have a state of being and self-trust that allows us to be in that place of doing those things. And I think this is a really important energetic conversation. And it's something to understand before I go into any other ideas or things that come up with me in the next 365 for how many days we're going to be here. Because if we're not finding a way to honor our inner wisdom, we're understanding what that means for us, then anything we do is not really going to be in alignment. And I understand how that feels. It feels like I want to go in this direction. I feel like I should go in this direction. It feels like the right thing to do. And then you start making choices that are more logical choices versus actually truly aligned. And they look aligned. They look aligned because they're really close in proximity to the thing that you want, or you think you should want, or that you do want, or you're being led to in. But the action, the partnership, the decision you're making is not actually coming from your inner voice. So that's what I want to leave you with today. And I'm curious, anybody who listens to this, what are you understanding, seeing, feeling when you're thinking about your own self-trust? Much love.